the raw bastard himself, Will Fleury, as he is getting prepared to take on Omari Akhmedov and the PFL 2023 big series. It's the big tournament, Will, that you're involved in. I mean, you know, you were on with Sean talking on Sherlock a couple of weeks ago. There was a lot of uncertainty and you were unsure what was happening back then. Since then, over the last couple of weeks, everything has materialized. You've been confirmed for the big tournament. You're fighting on April 1st in Las Vegas against Omari Akhmedov, who was the finalist last year in the light heavyweight bracket. So you're not alone, you're going straight into the bracket, you're going straight in and straight up to test yourself against elite level competition. You must be over the moon. How did it all come to fruition? How did the kind of the final decision get made, or when did you find out that you were going to be a part of the big tournament?
Well, wasn't really a decision. It was more, if I ever got this opportunity, I was definitely going to take it with both hands. And then once I qualified for what I thought was this $1 million tournament back in August last year, there was a little bit of uncertainty straight away. And then the longer it went on, the more likely it looked like it was going to be Europe, because they hadn't started to apply for a visa or anything. So I assumed I was in the European tournament. And then it pretty much got confirmed to me that I was going to be in the European tournament without anything much being said. And then about 3 weeks ago, I think, I was just down in Tullamore and I got a voicemail off my manager being like, "Hey, you're in the US tournament." And yeah, that was huge. That was the best voicemail I've had in a long time. So
I bet it was. What, the reaction must have been very big excitement when you heard that news, hey?
Yeah, it was like, look, like, this is a chance I've been waiting for a long time. So, like, you know, I feel like I've done what it takes to be this guy. Now I got to go in there and show what I am like. So yeah, it's cool. It's very cool.
Like you said, you've been on a phenomenal journey, and it seems right now with this opportunity, you know, all the hard work, all the dedication, all the preparation and building your skill set, it's all accumulated for this opportunity, for the chance. Like you said, you said you were going to grab it with both hands. The motivation must be going through the roof right now in your preparation, in your kind of mentality and getting ready. You're going in there. Look at it. It's tough competition that you're going in there against, but you're going to be well able to mix it up there, I'm sure. It must be exciting to get this chance to have a kind of a set path, and it's all down to you really, and how much you make of it. So what is the feelings ahead of entering into the tournament?
Yeah, I think excitement is the main one. Like, nothing massively changes in my training, or like, obviously when you get the opponent, the name, like 3 weeks ago when I found out I was in the tournament, I was like, okay, cool. But I pretty much keep doing what I'm doing. And now I have the name since Wednesday, and that's Omari Akhmedov. So now I can prepare specifically for that guy. But as soon as I found out, obviously very excited. Like, you know, you're going to get a chance to win $1 million in a year. That's incredible. Like, you know, that's properly life-changing. Like, and then when you get the name and the guy and you find out you're on the main card and he's a finalist from last year, yeah, it's just like, right, this is it. This is real as fuck. This is a chance to show what you are like. So incredibly exciting is the bottom line. And like, look, it is this chance. You will get, you know, for years it kind of felt like this might not come, you know. Didn't look like the UFC was going to happen, and fucking didn't look like this could, like, you know, it's the potential for this not to go anywhere massive. And I knew if I just stayed winning, eventually something good would happen. But like, now, 2023, I'm getting this fucking chance. This can be a totally different thing by the end of 2023. So that's incredibly exciting. Like,
yeah, you're in there with some pretty good competition. Like I said, look at Joff Silveira, Christoph Jocko, Hamlet, Fakhreddin Akhmedov, who you're fighting. Obviously, the current champion, Robert Wilkinson, Thiago Santos, former UFC fighter, as well, is in there. Apart from yourself, who do you see as the guy to beat? Are you looking at the likes of you know, you're going in there with a finalist already. Obviously, Robert Wilkinson has been competing very successfully within PFL as well. Who are you looking at as the guy to beat in that tournament, apart from yourself?
Well, for me right now, the guy to beat's Omari Akhmedov, right? Don't beat him, then everything's fucked anyway. So focus on beating the shit out of that guy first. And when I look at Akhmedov, I think very solid fighter, very experienced guy. You know, nobody here is going to be easy. But I look at the guy and I'm like, there's a chance to do this. There's a chance to do this nice and clean. You could make this a very fucking easy win if you want to. Like, I have that skill set now. So if I'm smart about this, I feel like I can go in and put him away and do it lovely. And, you know, if I'm not, it ends up in a dogfight and he's a tough cunt. But I back myself, man. I'm the fuck, like, nobody wants this more than I do. So, like, if it becomes a fucking war, okay, we're going to war and you're going to fucking find out how badly I want this. Like, so again, like, you can make this one clean. That's what I see here. You could, but it has the potential to be fucking dogfight too. So, yeah, I think like excitement is the big thing. Like, it's like, really, it is just liberating to know, like, right, fuck, I'm going to get that chance. I'm going to get that chance on the biggest stage possible. And I get to go out there and show what I've done for the last 4 or 5 years, show the fucking work I've put into this, and show how fucking good I am. And like, that in itself just feels very liberating. Like, all of what I've worked on for the last couple of years is going to get to be seen. And look, yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting as fuck. It's the basic bottom line.
Yeah, 100%. Look, you have the name, you have the date. Now, with PFL, if anyone is unfamiliar with the format, obviously with the league format, 6 points for a first round finish, 5 for a second round, 4 for a third round, and 3 points by win by decision. With that format, Will, how do you entwine that into, you know, because obviously you're going to get more points for finishing. Does it change your training? Does it change your preparation? And does it change your mindset heading into a fight like this? You know, knowing that if you go out there, produce a first round finish, you get that 6 points and you're almost guaranteed, you know, one first round finish, what we've seen before, would almost guarantee you a spot in the playoffs later on in the season.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things here, but I don't think it's going to change much from my point of view. I've never seen anyone win 2 fights and not qualify. Maybe it's happened, but I can't see how it will happen. There will be injuries as well, and there will be all sorts. So, like, basically win your fucking fight. That's the main thing. But these lads aren't fucking around. So, like, everybody's there to win $1 million at the end of the day. There's going to be some fucking bangers. If you're not able to get people out of there quickly, you're going to be fucked. Like, so if it got, like, Akhmedov seems to come very heavy in the first round in a lot of his fights. If he comes, you've got to have the goods. So, in a way, I could see these fights being over pretty quickly. But if they are the type where you pick them apart slowly and surely, great. Pick them apart slowly and surely. The main thing is just fucking win.
Yeah,
and like,
100%.
They'll dictate what sort of fight it is as much as you will. You know, so like, just be open to what comes to you.
Yeah, big time, big time. And it's like, you know, the preparation that you have been doing, obviously you've been helping Carl prepare as he is going to be helping you prepare. We had spoken to Carl on the big episode of the Auld Triangle today. He singled you out as the guy between the trio of yourself, Carl and Johnny Walker, who were good training partners together. He singled yourself out as the guy who was made the most leaps and bounds in leveling up in your skill set over the last year, and give you tons of credit for your work ethic and the way that you're doing things. Now, how do you feel that you've grown in the last year, and how has been the adjustment moving from middleweight into the light heavyweight division?
Yeah, like, look, I think I'm the hungriest to increase my skill set constantly. But some of that was because I have 2 really good guys there working my ass a lot of the time. Shit, sorry. But like, a lot of that, like, it comes from that ambition of like, you want to be the biggest ass whooper in the gym. And when you're oversized and you got guys like Carl and Johnny, a lot of the time it's like, oh fuck, I've got to get better. I've got to get better again and again and again. So there was huge motivation there to not get my ass whooped and, you know, continuously grow from that. But like, moving up in the weight class, it's made things a lot more even on a physical scale. And I was probably a fairly big middleweight to begin with. But I still, like, I don't feel like I'm the type of light heavyweight that's going to match everyone for power. I'm definitely, like, as a middleweight, I could have been stronger than a lot of the guys. As a light heavyweight, I probably won't be. And that's grand, because I fucking know how to fight better than any of these cunts. And I know how to use my brain better than any of these lads. And I think that's my biggest weapon, is like, can I outthink and outsmart and outpredict everybody here? Because I definitely have the power to finish fucking anyone, whether they're heavyweight or light heavyweight or whatever the fuck they are. It's more, will you see the pattern before you get clipped? Will you see that thing before the danger is there and you fucking make a mistake first? And so far, like, look, I feel like that's been the process of growing a lot. And like, thankfully, I've had lads like Carl, like Johnny, who are high level, who present problems, who, like, you know, if you're fucking a pattern up, it'll be exploited. You know, you won't get a second chance a lot of the time. And I think I've managed, like, look, I'm really fucking, you know, it's kind of flattering to hear Carl saying all that shit. Like, you know, we've had these conversations in person as well. But like, I'm lucky to have someone like Carl. I'm lucky to have like the type of fighter and the type of, like, he's a fucking great fighter, great man too. Like, you know, he's an easy guy. Like, the two of us are the only two people I've had over the years where we can properly kick the shit out of each other and be completely normal afterwards. You know, so we can have a real good go off one another and nothing ever changes. It's never like shitty afterwards, or it's never like bad one way or the other. I've had my ass whooped by him a lot of times, you know. I'd never hold it against him because he's just a fucking great guy. Like, and yeah, I just feel really, really lucky and privileged to kind of have a relationship like that in the gym and have somebody where I can like kind of bounce ideas off of, but also go hard at them and be genuinely fucking competitive, but not in a shitty way with them. Like, it's very kind of hard thing to describe, but it's, when you get it, it's lovely.
Yeah, like, I mean, obviously, look, we were talking about like some of the nice things that he's been said, but obviously you have to develop that relationship as training partners and as friends as well to kind of, you know, maybe kind of call somebody out if they're not doing something correctly, or if they feel that they could be working. Do you feel that yourself and Carl and maybe even Johnny as well have that relationship where you hold each other accountable for your actions as well in and outside the octagon or in the cage?
Because, like, look, I think number one, it'll present itself in your training. As in, if you're not doing well in the rounds, you know, you'll be asking questions pretty quickly. We're all fairly competitive lads, and it's a good thing. Like, I like, you know, if somebody's getting fucking trounced again and again, they're going to come back and be like, right, what's going wrong here? And we have that attitude amongst the three of us where we will go like, you're doing this, I'm doing this, and that's making me, like, you know, that's leading to this and this. And like, maybe, you know, not to fucking blow too much smoke up my own arse, but I'm probably the most analytical in those situations where, like, I might recognize what's happening a little bit quicker sometimes and say like, okay, you're playing this underhook from half guard all the time and I'm exploiting it by doing this and this. And like, that's, I have to give Narius and John massive credit for that, because like in the last 3 years, like, look, you know, my brain and my level of understanding of what I'm doing while I'm fighting has kind of probably increased more than my physical capacity has. And that's massively due to Narius and John. And like, even one huge thing that like has been going on the last while is like, John will stay at the end of the class for an hour and a half. Sometimes it's great. Like, it's mad how long he'll be there. But if you like any little thing that's happened in those rounds, you can then go over and be like, this is happening. Why? And 9 times out of 10, he'll have a pretty good answer as to like, that's why this is going on. And maybe here's what you should do. And the great thing is, you go off and you try that thing the next day, you come back to him and you're like, okay, here's what happened. Ah, well then you got to go and do this and this now. So like, straight away, you're kind of like, you're not stuck on B. It's like C, D, E, F. Okay, now we're fucking, there's a whole chain out of this that we're getting into. Like, so like, that journey over the last like 2 years has been incredibly exciting to me, because like, it feels like progress, and progress is really addictive. So like, when you're not dealing with the same shit week in, week out, and it's a different kind of a thing, and your brain is even like focused on a different thing every day, it's like, okay, I'm going to get this position out of there. And then when he tries to do this, I'll do this and this. Okay, that didn't work. Why didn't that work? Oh, okay, because of this. Okay, now I have to do this, this, and this. That, like, that's kind of become the obsession for me, of like continuously adding to that chain. And then eventually you're kind of in these mad sequences, and it's really like, it's interesting as fuck. And like, even myself and Muhammad have gone into kind of like, you know, 10 back and forth of like, he's doing this, I'm doing this, he's doing this. And it's, you know, and his timing and speed is still a little bit like, you know, I'll say he's the guy who I'm like most kind of like nearly jealous of, like, I want that timing, I want that speed, I want that feel for when something's about to happen, like, and I'm developing it, but I'm like, okay, I need to like, this thing, it's like you chase it too hard, it's not there anymore, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like how hard is it to kind of have that patience? Because look at everyone, we heard the good and honest and true words that Carl said about you and your progress. I think on top of that, we've seen the fruits of your labor every time you've stepped into the cage over the last couple of years as well, because we're seeing a new and improved Will Fleury every time we've got in there. How hard is it, you know, to kind of cull the expectations a little bit and having a little bit more patience in kind of trusting the process, per se, for lack of a better term, in kind of acquiring those new skill sets and leveling up each time. You know, obviously you said you're jealous and you want to have everything, but it takes time. It takes a lot of patience as well. And it takes a lot of kind of looking in the mirror and assessing what needs to be changed in your camps and in your preparations and everything too, I assume.
I suppose it comes down to what the goal is. And like, if you ultimately see the goal as being like increasing the skill set and getting slightly better every day, like I don't give a fuck about being physically strong anymore. Like, oh, I eat a shitload and I train pretty hard. So like, and I do strength training and that sort of thing. But like, that used to be my obsession. That used to be like, oh, if I can get more powerful, I'll be a better fighter and blah, blah. And now it's like, okay, that's maintenance work. You know, that's like fucking jogging or something, you know, in my head. And it used to be way too big a focus. Whereas now it's like the feel, the skill, the thing. Like, if that's the focus, you know that it's not going to be there every day. And it's more just enjoying the process of chasing it. And like, I listened to a really interesting podcast with Johnny Wilkinson about 1.5 years ago, where he talked kind of about, you know, he's like, would you know Johnny Wilkinson?
Oh, yeah.
All-time great rugby out.
All-time great,
yeah. So like, I was always like, I grew up fucking, you know, admiring his career and like how fucking dedicated he seemed to be to like constantly being perfect. And that seemed like, oh, he's got the right mindset. And I remember I read his book when I was about maybe 19 or 20. And I was like, right, so it's just like you kick the ball 100 times, and then if you miss one, you kick it another 100 times. So I was expecting when I listened to this podcast for him to be like, look, it's about obsession, it's about work ethic, it's about blah, blah. And his whole thing was like, look, if you feel like you're working hard, that's just a lack of passion. And like straight away, it just hit home with me. And he's like, he's so fucking right, isn't he? You know, this thing of hard work is such a lot of bullshit. If you're truly into something and you truly like, you know, the things that I've actually gotten really good at in life, say a video game or anything like that, they don't feel like work. You'll sit down, you'll do it anyway because you're just obsessed with the thing. It's, you know, it's fucking fascinating to you to do this thing. So it's like, find what fascinates you about this thing and just let it flow within you and let that thing start to like catch your brain and then feel that little thing. Like, so it's like, even like, you can do that with anything. You can do that when you're hitting a bag. You can do that with your balance. Where's your weight? Is it in your toes? It is in your heel. Like, and then you start to like, oh, when my weight's here, this snaps a little quicker. And when I hit my head that way, my shoulder pops up a little faster that side. And then all of a sudden you start chaining those things and you're like, oh shit, that's cool. Like, and then, you know, then it becomes like a little bit of an early, like you're not consciously even thinking anything. You're just doing it, feeling it. And then your brain's adapting to it. And look, like, it's easy to sit here and talk all this shit, but like the main thing is if you actually fucking adapt to that, it's very exciting. It's very fun. Like,
yeah, I don't think it's talking shiny. Like, it sounds what you're you're describing flow state there. And you know, one of the things that Carl said about you is that you're in the gym all the time, even, you know, training to the same frequency as he is when he's in fight camp. I imagine if you have found that flow state when it comes to learning martial arts, that it probably doesn't even feel like you're in, you know, that it's like, oh, I have to go in twice a day, 3 times. It's just what you do.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, because if you'd asked me now, I would have said I train way less hard than I did a couple of years ago. But again, hard is perception. So I probably train just as much and maybe even at a relatively even intensity. But the focus is so different that it's not about the slog. It's not about like oh, I'm sweating balls now and oh, I haven't had a drink in 20 minutes and I'm here slogging on the mats. Because you're not thinking about any of that. You're thinking about like, why can't I get my leg over that leg in half guard? Do I need to put my weight here more, or do I need, you know? So straight away, it's just like your brain's in a different place and it doesn't seem difficult. Like, it's not, you're not focused on the fucking difficulty of anything. If you focus on how fucked you are, you'll feel fucked all the time. If you focus on what you're trying to do, you'll probably eventually achieve what you're trying to do, you know?
Yeah, no, it's very well said. Very well said. I love hearing you talking like that because it's very true. It's like, you know, we've seen you in competing in light heavyweight. Obviously, you got defeated during the pandemic against Rosansky. You've got in there again since in light heavyweight division against Anthony Salomon, and now you're going in against Omari Akhmedov. Compare those 3 experiences. Look, you've said it yourself that Magic Rosinski fight, he didn't fight the true Will Fleury, and I think that was there to see in the fight. Obviously, you had to deal with the broken hand, I think, as well in that fight as well. Was it that fight or is it a different fight? Maybe I'm getting mixed up.
It's the last 3 fights.
But
I actually, funny enough, before the last one, like I remember Andy, you asked me, you were like, "Oh, any injuries going into this fight?" And I was like, no, of course not. But
there's a few fights where you're like, just don't look at this limb.
Yeah.
But no, I'd broken toes going into that last one and broken a toe as well. And they were both kind of awkward breaks. They weren't actually that bad. They weren't like huge factors, but they were just really like painful. But yeah, basically the Rosansky fight, look, I was lighter fighting that fight than I was for most of my fights at middleweight. And that was a bit silly, a little bit naive. But at the same time, I wouldn't take anything away from Maciej Rosansky. He went in and beat Fleury that night. So fair fucks to him. To be honest, you're asking me about the 3 fights and comparing them. I feel like this is my first fight as a light heavyweight. I was about 98, 99 kilos when I fought Salamone. I'm about 106, 107 walking around right now. So that's what, like 7, 8 kilo difference. Physically, I feel fucking quite different. Like the funny thing of going up to light heavyweight is like, I don't seem to have lost any of my speed, or like if anything, I've probably gotten a little bit faster. And I still move a lot. Like I'm like quite mobile. I didn't expect to be able to kind of bounce and move around this much. So like physically, I don't feel that different, but I'm a lot heavier, if you get me. So as soon as I collide with something else, I'm like, whoa, that thing moved. So like, look, I'm excited to get in and show light heavyweight Auld Fleury because I don't think we've seen him yet.
Yeah, and I guess that was the kind of why I was asking that question. It was just to kind of see where you felt you were at with your body size and your strength and everything like that. In the Anthony Salamone fight, looking back at it, how would you assess that performance? Was there, I don't want to use the word doubt, but like, did you hold back maybe a little bit because you didn't know how you were maybe going to react at a heavier weight in the later stages of that fight? And did you feel a kind of that wonder, that kind of like inexperience per se at that weight class, did it hold you back a little bit? And has that kind of not really?
No, like I'm watching it, like, and even just the feel of it in there, like I felt quite in control, and I just felt like he's not going to expose himself really. So it was kind of like there was a little bit like in the second round where I was trying to bait him in and like trying to make him come a bit. But it's like, sure, I'm still touching you from the outside here, and like he had a good way of absorbing shots as well. So like there was a couple of ones that I was like, oh, that could have pinged, and he just managed to like kind of go with it enough. But he wasn't trying to come back with anything, because it was like, all right, if I'm coming in heavy on this and you're coming back, now it's going to be number 3 might get you. Like, but there was no ambition on his part to really change the momentum, and the momentum was going with me. So I was like, all right, fuck it. I'm not going to chase you around the ring and fucking expose myself to finish you. I'm holding the center here. I'm picking you apart. You're doing nothing about it. That's fine by me. If you want to lose that way, you can lose that way any day of the week. Like, I'm not getting touched up. You're not fucking, you know, there's nothing going your way here.
Pick your poison.
Yeah. So then, like, in the third round, I know I like took him down and put a bit more pressure on him and landed a good few more shots and whatever. But like, I kind of felt like the first 2 rounds were going to go my way, like, or were going my way. And if he tried to do anything about it, like the one time he rushed me, he got caught pretty heavy. I threw like a double backstep hook. I think I'd been drilling with Narius coming up to it, and it worked really well. Like, look, you know, you can say, oh, you didn't finish the fight, whatever. It's like, grand, but you didn't try to fucking win. So if you try to win, I'll fucking finish you. But if you're happy to be picked apart on the outside, grand. You know, you're not doing nothing about it, man.
Well, you're obviously facing a Marek Madoff here, but I feel like I feel like you have a real opportunity here to announce yourself on the world stage in general, for a number of reasons. Like, I feel like, you know, you've obviously won the UAE Warriors title already. You've been around Bellator. On the European side, you're already well known. But I'm looking at a guy like Thiago Santos, who's fought to a split decision with John Jones. That's a really big name in that PFL division. Do you look? I know you'll be looking at a Marek Madoff, but like, do you think, does he come into your mind? And like, do you think about that this is about the opportunity in front of you?
Of course. Like, look, like, you deal with what's in front of you first. And if you start focusing too much on anything outside of that, you're not going to get the best out of yourself for what's in front of you. But yeah, it's incredibly exciting. Like, the fact that there's such huge opportunity beyond this fight obviously propels you into this fight a little bit harder. And the chance, or like, you know, the thought of fucking getting to get in there with Thiago Santos or even Rob Wilkinson, and I know he's not quite as big a name, but like looking at the type of fighter he is, that's a really exciting fight to me because it's a test. It's a real like, oh, that guy's got a skill set, like, and that guy's got a skill set that I'm like, can I break that down? And that, like, it gets that part of your brain going. It gets that like, ooh, you know, cause you, like, what do you do here? So like, obviously Thiago Santos is a huge one. He's by far the biggest name in the thing, but like any of them fights, like Akhmedov was a cool one because it's like, right, this is one of those guys. And like, in a way, it's one of those guys, he's quite similar to some of the other lads I would have fought. So like some of the stuff I've done in the past kind of applies to him, but it like getting to smash names means a lot to me. Getting to show who I am and like what I can do, and like even like, look, like I think it, like, maybe it's because like, you know, you don't have that fucking UFC banner behind you and everyone kind of goes, ah, well, you're an MMA fighter, but you're not in the UFC. And it's like, well, I'd fucking smash most of the lads in the UFC if I got the chance. Like, Thiago Santos has been in the UFC and he's been a high level guy in the UFC like that. He took John Jones very fucking close. Like, you get in, you smash that lad. Nobody can go, ah, well, you're not a UFC level fighter. It's like, well, fuck you, I obviously am. Like,
Yeah.
So the chance to show that is big, very big. Yeah, yeah, it means a lot to me. Like,
it's like that mentality where everyone was always saying, oh, Fedor, he never did it in the UFC. But at the same time, he was competing. He was beating all these kind of guys who went on to be champions and were previous champions in the UFC as well. You're in the same boat here with the kind of level of talent that you're in as well. And it's very exciting, obviously, as well. And I know, for one, I'm delighted to get that. I'm delighted to see you get that opportunity.
well, look, this is what it is. It's an opportunity. So the main thing is now get in and get the fucking ball rolling. You know, like it'll be a lot more, like we're sitting here talking as if we've achieved something already. Fucking haven't yet. Like, you know, it's just the opportunity. But just getting that opportunity, yeah, it's very fucking exciting because I know what I am. And I'm really, really looking forward to next year now. Like, yeah.
Will,
sorry.
In terms of just what I'm in combat sports, there's a saying, and it goes, the happy fighter is a dangerous fighter. The impression I've gotten from you throughout this entire interview is how thrilled you seem to be with how everything's played out and finally fallen into place with you. Do you think that with how everything's gone and the way things are going, that this will actually bring out the best in you going into this tournament?
Yeah, I hope so. And like, if I don't allow it to be that, because so far everything has worked out very, very well, then that's on me, and that's a mental thing. Like, you know, but really, I don't really question this shit anymore. I just kind of let it flow and feel it and just fucking enjoy it. So I just feel, yeah, look, this is going to be the chance that I've wanted for a long fucking time. And the ability to take it is there, and the desire to take it is there. And the, like, I suppose the mentality to take it is there as well. So like, just get in and fucking take it, do it, you know. That's that I'm looking forward to most, really.
On the media side, Will, like you've always been great to us, and you always give a candid interview. Are you excited to, you know, I've seen PFL, and they did it with your last fight, with a great video on you, and the same with Nathan Kelly, and I'm sure they'll do it with Franz and Dylan and John also, I'd hope, to be able to show that personality. Are you excited for like the media side, the exposure, not the exposure, but, you know, just being able to show Will Fleury, the raw bastard, to the world stage?
I hope so, but like, look, like it's a weird one because I've kind of like, you know, maybe it's like I try and be too cool for school in ways, but I didn't get into this to be famous. I got into this just to be me, and this is what I am, right? So I'm kind of like, well, I'll go in and just be this. And that PFL piece that they did was pretty fucking cool because I didn't have any, like, your man was like, oh, tell me about Will Fleury, and it kind of seemed like a real, like, Asher, we're not, like, none of this is actually going to be aired. And then they put the whole piece out, and I was like, fuck, that's brilliant. Like, I was really surprised, like, because, you know, I said cunt like 3 times in the thing as well. So. I suppose maybe, like, look, you know, my parents have obviously gone on to me about, like, maybe not cursing as much, and, like, even wider family members.
Well, you've just let them down again.
Yeah, tell them not to watch this interview then.
This worldwide platform, the Auld Triangle.
But like, I don't know how much I'll sanitize who I am just for the sake of anyone else, and maybe that's silly on my behalf. But it's also like, I grew up watching all these, like, you know, Munster rugby and like being as honest as you could be and all this type of shit. Like, you know, I really bought into that when I was a young lad. And I was like, well, this is what I am, even if it's not everybody's cup of tea. It's kind of like, well, I owe it to myself to be this, you know, and that's what will really matter at the end of all of this. Is like, Asher, I went in there and I was me, and like when I look back on it all, I'll be very well. I hope that I'll be very fucking proud of who I am. So
I think you should be proud already, Will, to be honest, given what you've...
I know, like, we're getting into a little bit of a fucking, like...
Then, like, all soppy here.
Yeah, isn't he? And, like, you know, this is your life, and we're fucking finished up.
We'll focus attention on a couple of your training partners. They're getting ready for Bellator 291, Will, coming up this Saturday. What's the feeling like in the gym, and what are you most looking forward to of that event?
There's a good buzz, as always. Anytime this Bellator card coming around, there's kind of like an energy, and in a way, it's kind of coincided nicely with my own thing coming up as well. But there's a few very big, like I think Pedro's fight's huge, you know, co-main. It's kind of like he's the Irish main event early in my eyes, and it's a tough fight. Jeremy Kennedy's very solid, but like it's mad. I was only kind of looking at the card and thinking about this. It was like, it's bizarre Pedro's in this fight, and you just expect him to win it against such a high-level lad. Like, I've not questioned about, like, you know, obviously, like, it's kind of nearly dawned on me the last few days. Like, well, it's a fucking tough fight, like, but all the way through to, like, watching him train, watching him everything, I'm like, okay, Pedro's going to smash this lad. So that's, like, that was just kind of a funny realization. There's a lot of big fights on this card, man, though. It's like, you know, in fairness, like, the card last November probably had more, like, the lads in general had harder fights, I would have thought. But this one, there's kind of like a lot of lads who I'd be really invested in have fairly tough fights. So like, I don't think that's an easy fight, the Rozanski fight for Carl either. And not just because I lost to the guy, but like, he's a much trickier opponent than people give him credit for. And I think if Carl, like, I expect Carl to go in there and smash him. But if he does, he probably won't get the credit he deserves for smashing a lad as good as Rozanski is. Because he's a weirdly tricky opponent, and like maybe he's not as physically robust as he was a year or two ago, but he's got a decent skill set, and he kind of makes other people look not what they are. Even like if you watch any of his other fights, like he fought Jack Hermansson, and he kind of made Hermansson look shit for a lot. Like that was back at middleweight, like when he was a little bit smaller. But like he's got a tricky game, and his jiu-jitsu is very good. Once a guy gets tired, he kind of like, he's a real jiu-jitsu guy where like he wants you to be a little bit lazy, and he'll exploit that. Like if you're a pure MMA grunt style, which Carl can't, like, you know, Carl's strong as a fucking horse. So I think he'll struggle to deal with Carl at 80%. But the thing I worry about is like if Carl goes below 80 at any point, Rozanski's got a very smooth game on the ground that he can use. So I'll be a little bit like, obviously I'm just nervous about that fight in general, but like, I would expect Carl to smash him, but it's a relatively tough fight too. Smullen as well has a pretty tough fight. You know, the Nijelski fight. You saw like, sure, that lad, you know, I know like it's controversial, but
yeah,
like beat Pedro, and that's no joke. So like he's got a skill set, that lad. It's a tough one to come back on, so that'll be an interesting one as well. Aziel has a tough opponent too. That Lee McCracken lad's good. I watched a little bit of him.
Yeah, he's very good. That's like you're probably talking about two of the biggest prospects there coming up in the
I don't think that fight will get the like attention it deserves for being such a banger of a fight. Like,
no, I had to sail on a couple of weeks ago, like, because I wanted to make sure that we got that attention, and I think similar enough to Magic. I think a win over Lee McCracken for a sale, that's going to be probably not accounted for as it should be either, because Lee McCracken, there's not too many people lining up to fight him in the featherweight division, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, big time. And like, I think like he was very good as an amateur as well. I think I saw one of his amateur fights and I was just really impressed with him, and then I'd kind of forgotten about him for a while, and I saw a pro fight of his there. And then like, I don't think he was Aziel's original opponent either, was he? Or
no, he wasn't. But there has been kind of, it's not necessarily a short notice replacement, but definitely wasn't the original.
It was Callum Murray was the original.
Yeah, there you go. And that, you know, a very different fight, like much more fucking, or much less challenging fight in my eyes anyway. Let's see who else. Sinead, as well has a fairly tough fight, and like I kind of feel like this is a rough one to come back in from a knee injury, and I don't think, I think if this fight goes a way that she doesn't smash it, it'll take away a lot of momentum of the Leah fight, and it doesn't deserve to be that, because like I feel like she probably won't get the credit she deserves for beating Leah on one leg, if you know what I mean, after what went on, like, coming back from a knee injury at the age she's at now, it's tough, like, and yeah, look, I hope she's able to go in there and smash it, like, but it's a tough one for her. And then most of the rest of the lads, like I think Kenny and Derek Kelly, they should absolutely smash the lads they're fighting. Peter as well should smash.
Bryce Logan.
Think the team SBG smash.
Charlie and Mike Shipman, like I've trained with both of them quite a bit over the years. So like, when I was over in London, I would have trained with Mike Shipman a good bit, like, and it's funny how similar they are. Like,
yeah, they're both so similar. How can you foresee that fight playing out?
It's going to be interesting anyway. Yeah, I could see it being absolute fireworks because they both are hard-headed as well. Like, neither of them will go down after the first punch, and both of them punch like trucks. So, like,
yeah, a crowd-pleasing fight, I'd say.
I would imagine. You never know, but like, it could be Rock'em Sock'em Robots from 20 seconds in, if you know what I mean, and just absolute carnage for as long as it lasts. Then, like Mike Shipman might be a little bit quicker, but Charlie's so robust. I can't see anyone really hurting him and putting him away, if you know what I mean. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, indeed. Exciting times at SBG right now. Fighters representing all different promotions all across the world. And you're leading the charge over at Bellator on the big show, April 1st. Omari Akhmedov is your opponent. On April 1st, Las Vegas. That's where we're going to see you next. What can fans expect to see, Will, before you head off? And thanks for taking the time today.
They can expect to see me whooping Omari Akhmedov's ass and then win $1 million in November. Actually, here's one other thing that I wanted to kind of touch on. Like, this December card in Dublin, it would make a lot of fucking sense when I get to the final. Just throw me into that, if you know what I mean. Like, put my final in Dublin. Just, if they're trying to build in Europe, I think that's the way to go. You have a huge fucking card, or you have a huge event. You have your main event sorted for Dublin then. And it's a nice little kind of pre-Christmas pause. You win $1 million and sorts Christmas out, like, so I think that all ties in together quite nicely, like. So it's on me to get there now, but like, I don't know, I just feel like PFL, if they're smart about it, that'll be the way they'll do it, and we'll be talking about a Dublin finale.
Absolutely, yeah, that would be unreal if they did do that. Hopefully now, if things go to plan and you do get on that card and you do win the $1 million before Christmas, hopefully us three are on your Christmas list. Hopefully we'll get a little bit.
Remember we did that interview, Will? Would you give us a
Yeah.
What would you spend the $1 million on?
Are you not paying me? This is a Paddy Pimlet.
Yeah. Well, we wanted the other way, right?
I'm the first two-time guest. Like, well, do I get a double bonus?
Exposure, man, exposure.
Yeah.
We're growing your brand.
Will,
what would you? Wait.
Oh, go on, Andy. Go on.
What would you spend $1 million on?
Fuck all. I might buy a gaff or something. Like, I don't think I'd change much of my life, to be honest. I'd just be way more comfortable and have to stress way less. Like, I'd buy a gaff. I'd like be able to live somewhere around Dublin that would be somewhat decent. I might even try fucking get a gaff and tip as well and like spend a bit more time back there. But really, in terms of how I lead my life, it just means I'd be a lot more comfortable continuing to lead my life this way. But I've been thinking about that a good bit of like, yeah, what would really change? And I'm like, nothing big. I live the way I want to fucking live anyway, thank fuck. And I'm very, very lucky to be able to do that. But like, it would obviously be a huge relief. Like, you're like, a lot less stress, basically, and a lot less like having to worry about not being a fucking adult, even though I'm 33, and like paying a guy rent every month, and just being a bit like feeling like you're a stupid cunt for choosing this as your life path. But in general, I wouldn't change massive amount. Like,
perfect.
That's the truth. Like,
yeah, no, fair play to you. It's it'd be great to see you going on that journey towards the $1 million tournament prize money. In the light heavyweight division, it begins on April 1st against Omari Akhmedov in Las Vegas. Will Fleury will be making his not promotional debut, but his tournament debut over there in Las Vegas. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you competing there. Will, we wish you all the best, and we'll be talking to you in between now and then too, I'm sure.
Cheers, Ian. Thanks, man. Best luck, lads.